time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time can come again.
Welcome back to the Think Liberty podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, and this is episode 69.
Nice.
Joining me is Lonie Dupree. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I just got back from a vacation to scenic Jacksonville, Florida.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What were you doing out there?
Visiting some friends that we haven't seen in a while. So it was over Easter weekend, and basically, we just kind of just hung out. And that was basically it. Went to IKEA.
That's always a vacation in and of itself.
Right. I turned really, really white in IKEA. I was just going through, showing my wife all the stuff. I was like, look how awesome this is. This is amazing.
And it only takes 60,000 bolts. Right,
yeah. Then I finally got to see the Atlantic Ocean. It's my first ocean that I've ever seen. I'm basically on the Gulf of Mexico where I am, so that's the largest body of water I'd seen previously, but I was able to go to the Atlantic Ocean, and I know it was about conspiracy theories. And to disprove one, I did not see Africa, so the world is not flat. So we'll get that one out of the way. So
yeah, that's a pretty dumb one.
Right. But yeah, it was cool. Had a good bit of fun over 4 days. So
good. You deserved a break.
Yeah, I think so.
We also have Amos Joseph of the Shitlord Preachers podcast. Good to have you on this week. What have you been up to for the last few weeks? You were on a few weeks ago, right?
I was. We're just staying busy with the podcast, and for the listeners, I do. I am Amos Joseph. I run the Shitlord Preachers podcast on my YouTube channel over there. We're on Sundays at 11 a.m. Central Time. That's the live one, and our episodes come out on Tuesday mornings on iTunes. Talk about a lot of the same things, kind of like this podcast. Talk a lot about different topics. Yeah, so been busy with that, and then of course coming on here every now and then. So thanks for having me on.
Well, it's good to have you on. We always appreciate you coming on and contributing to the conversation. So Lonie mentioned it a little bit. We were doing episode planning a few weeks ago, and the one topic that kept coming up was conspiracy theories. We had to get a couple of interviews done first, but finally the episode is here. So we're going to talk about the conspiracy theories that we find the most interesting, whether we believe them or not. Fair warning, this episode might run a little bit long, but really, what do you expect when you get a bunch of libertarians together talking conspiracy theories? To start us off, Lonie, why don't you tell us about your favorite conspiracy theory?
Well, I guess mine isn't totally a conspiracy theory, more of a pseudoscience that is generally well-liked by people who are also into conspiracy theories. But it's also a very fun one for me. It's cryptozoology, which if you don't know what cryptozoology is, it's basically kind of like zoology, except for animals that may or may not exist. It's this is for your Bigfoots, your Loch Ness Monster, things like that.
Hell yeah.
Right, yeah. This has always been one of my favorite topics of all time. One, I already love animals to begin with, and I also love possibly fake animals too. So,
don't we all?
Right, yeah. Now, a cryptid, which is a cryptozoological animal, a cryptid is different from a what is usually called like a legendary or mythical creature. A mythical creature would be something like a cyclops, a dragon, a unicorn, things like that.
Do you believe in unicorns?
I believe that people saw antelopes from a distance.
Oh, that's a good theory.
Or
I think they could have existed like thousands of years ago. Maybe.
I mean, is it possible there could have been some deformed horses that may have had horn-like appendages on their heads. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a Pegasus?
No, a Pegasus is a winged horse.
I know,
Yeah,
but I mean...
That's even more of a stretch.
Yeah, a Pegasus I think
we got to draw the line somewhere, right?
Right, yeah. I think we can all agree a Pegasus is likely fake. Completely.
That one's bullshit. That's the flat earth of cryptids.
Right, yeah. But could a horse at some point, in very, very rare instances, have grown some sort of bump or horn-like thing out of its head? I mean, I guess. I don't know.
So what are some of your favorite cryptids?
I think everybody's favorite is Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's one of my favorites, anyways.
There are certainly some other interesting ones that do kind of stand out a little bit more and are possibly maybe a little plausible. Some like the giant anaconda. You basically have an anaconda that instead of stopping at around 20-ish feet, it grew to 40 feet.
They've had sightings of that in like Central Africa, haven't they?
The anaconda does not grow in Africa, Caitlin.
No, but there was like some big ass snake that was like 50 foot long that they apparently have pictures of in Central Africa, but it was never confirmed. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
Well, it's definitely not an anaconda, since anacondas are from South America.
I'm sorry.
You should be sorry. Anyways, there's, of course, with everything, there's going to be alleged sightings. Is it possible a very old, healthy-ish kind of snake could have grown to these great lengths? Yeah, it's possible. The idea of an anaconda growing to twice its length, probably not happening. Of course, then you have your various sea creatures, your sea serpents and your kraken and things like that. Those are always fun to talk about.
Because they're real.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Hey, only well, like
the thing...
5% of the ocean has been explored. There's no way you can tell me that giant sea creatures don't exist.
That's why these things are somewhat plausible, because there's like the big fin squid. This is a squid that was recently discovered, I think, in like the past 20 years or so. It's like this alien looking squid that has these super, super long tentacles. It's really scary looking, actually. No one knew about it until like an ROV caught a glimpse of it or something like that. Could there be these huge sharks, these enormous whales that are even bigger than anything that we currently know about? Maybe, considering how little of the ocean has actually been explored.
Are there any particular sea creatures that you find to be super interesting to debate their...
One, for sure, it is known as the Steller's sea ape, which is kind of a funny name, but the reason it's called a Steller's sea ape is because it was sighted by a man named George Willem Steller. And if you happen to kind of know a little bit about animals, you have the Steller sea eagle, the Steller sea lion, the Steller sea cow, the Steller's jay. This is a man who is responsible for finding many, many animals and then naming them.
So he's a pretty legit
guy's
source.
Legit. Right, he's legit. So he happened to witness from, according to him, about a distance of about 15, 20 feet-ish, an animal that was about 5 foot long, had a head similar to that of a dog. I don't know what kind of dog, but similar to a dog. It had large eyes, pointed, erect ears, long whiskers that he likened to a human mustache. But his tail resembled that of a shark in the sense that the upper lobe of the fin was larger than the lower, and it had no 4 feet or 4 fins, like a seal would.
So I'm looking at a picture of this thing, and it looks completely ridiculous. But I can see, maybe it was a deformed seal or something. I don't know. He's a legit source, so maybe this is a new species.
It's like I think Teddy Roosevelt may have seen Bigfoot.
He probably did, because Bigfoot's real.
Right, but this is a guy who's credible when it comes to animals. That was like one of his things. I kind of liken it to if Steve Irwin said he saw Bigfoot or a Tasmanian tiger. I'd believe him because credible.
God rest his soul.
God bless him. But,
He was God's gift to Earth.
Oh,
Steve
yeah.
Irwin is just the
absolutely.
epitome of the perfect human being.
Absolutely. It's just such tragedy that he was taken from us, you know.
But, you know, he probably went out the way he wanted to go.
Don't you finish that joke.
It wasn't a joke. I was just saying that's probably the way he wanted to go out, is playing with animals.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say with animals in his heart.
No, but that's a good one.
I mean,
that is a good one.
I would have rather he found Bigfoot than found a stingray.
So, anyways, after your blasphemy, we can we can move on. But yeah, you know, you also have your Loch Ness monster. Plenty of other lake monsters, of course. I mean, we can go on the whole list. There's Champ, there's Chessie, there's the Ogopogo or whatever. Ogopogo, I'm sorry. You know, just so many of them, and they all seem to resemble like a plesiosaur, you know, which is like an aquatic dinosaur. It's highly, highly improbable that there would be some sort of dinosaur or dinosaur-like creature swimming around in lakes.
Yeah, the lake ones are a little hard to believe. You'd think that a body would have surfaced by now.
Right. But people are seeing something. I don't know what they're seeing, but they're seeing something. It's another one similar to like Bigfoot, where these things have been seen for hundreds or thousands of years by people all over the globe. You know, and going to like Bigfoot or Sasquatch or any sort of large, hairy, ape-type, human-ish animal, the list literally goes on and on. There's the Amos, there's the Barmanu, there's the, of course, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yowie, Yeti,
Abominable snowman,
orang pendek, skunk ape, you know, whatever you want to call it. These things have been seen a lot.
It just it makes you wonder who has to see it for it to be legitimized. It's been seen for thousands of years and over the entire world almost. And it's almost identical descriptions of these things. Who's the one who says, okay, yes, this is real, and then it becomes widely accepted?
I mean, we really have to find a body of one or the bones of one, and then identify whether it's like if it's like a legitimate hominid.
Well, that's where my theory comes in, that they're probably more human than they are ape. That they're, I don't know, maybe a cousin of Homo sapiens, and they're intelligent enough. You know, they have the developed hypothalamus like humans do, and maybe they don't want to be found. Maybe they bury their dead. Maybe they're intelligent enough to cover their tracks, and they know how to not get caught. That's just a theory,
it's
though.
possible.
I don't know.
If they are an animal that evolved from similar primate ancestors as humans, and they could be intelligent enough to where they have some sort of, I guess, a sense of respect for their dead, and they bury them to where it would be much harder for someone to find a body, you know, unless it was dug up in, say, like a clearing out logs or construction of some sort.
Yeah, and you have all this, you know, uncharted territory within you know, at least North America, and especially, you know, Russia and Asia. You have millions
where a lot
of acres where it's uninhabited. So it's very plausible to think that there's something out there that we haven't found. I mean, obviously they don't have a huge population, or we would have found them. We would have found their bodies or something. But if it's a sparse population and they're intelligent creatures, I can see that there's Bigfoot out there.
Probably some sort of modern day equivalent to the Neanderthal that just somehow is not dying out because of us.
They're still finding species of, you know, Homo sapien cousins. They just found one within the last year in the Philippines that was a lot more recent than they thought it was. They found another one a few years ago in northern Asia that actually was pretty close to what people describe Bigfoot as. But there's tons of new species being discovered constantly, at least ones that have been dead for a while. Like, it's not too far off to think that those species spun off their own species and they're still out there somewhere.
I mean, it's possible. And, you know, with every type of animal, reptiles, insects, birds, there's constantly species that are discovered. and like how we mentioned earlier with the oceans, there's constantly new fish or other crustaceans or things like that that are being discovered that no one knew about until an ROV happened to go deep enough where humans couldn't go. So yeah, I mean, there's always things that we're gonna continue to discover that we either didn't know existed or we thought were extinct. These kind of things happen a lot. I mean, whenever you look at the animals like the Komodo dragon weren't, I guess, formally discovered till like 1910. The colossal squid, 1925. The megamouth shark, 1976.
That one sounds cool.
Something called the Tapanuli orangutan, 2017. How
did they not discover an orangutan until 2 years ago?
The way some of these, I suppose they may have discovered was that they found out that perhaps a colony of orangutans were actually a different species or maybe a different subspecies or something like that. So probably they knew of their existence, but through studying them found out that they were different enough. Maybe they didn't quite get as big or
just a
different subtle kind of differences like that.
No, it's cool, this stuff. It's like the X-Files. Like, I want to believe. Like, that's kind of the attitude I have towards it. I want to believe that there's species out there that we don't know about. Like, that's kind of the mystique of discovery.
Right. There's always going to be things discovered. I mean, we're still, we're able to reach different kind of places. Yeah, you're going to keep finding things. Hopefully one day, I have hope. A little bit of hope. It's diminishing as time goes on, but I still have some hope that a body or preferably a live Bigfoot,
I hope a body,
whatever you want to call it.
Because if they find a live one, they're going to torture the shit out of it doing tests. So I'm hoping a body.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But we've got to find Bigfoot within the next 50 years. That would be great.
Yeah, I hope so. Or at least some sort of, just to keep it ongoing to where it's not like completely just shut out. There is no Bigfoot, because that would be depressing. Like how you said, I want to believe.
Exactly. Now, we couldn't talk about conspiracy theories without bringing up 9/11, everyone's favorite conspiracy theory. Amos, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, obviously, 9/11 is one of the more recent, probably the big recent conspiracy theory that a lot of people talk about, and what's interesting about it is not just the fact that there are so many theories about it that are questioning so many things, but that a lot of these theories do pose very good questions about just the different parts of the official account that we have. And it's not just that, all these questions are good to ask, but also that a lot of people tend to question the official account. So basically, everyone knows 9/11, September 11th of 2001, World Trade Centers along with a couple other flights that crashed into the Pentagon, and there was the one that also crashed in a field in the middle of Pennsylvania. Yeah, all those, the different movies, people have seen it all, and so the official account is pretty much terrorist attack. One plane's plans were foiled, and it was crashed
because they hate us for our freedom.
Yeah, not to get into all of that, but. Excuse me, that's the official account. And not a lot of people really took that, especially in the beginning. So a lot of these theories pretty much started right away. Right away after this event took place, a lot of people started to question things like if the buildings look like, just the way the buildings came down, look like a controlled demolition. There was questioning on how the accounts of what had happened those days from witnesses, not only who were in the building that got out, but also people around the building. What they saw, what they didn't see, how they described the events. Some people try to question, like, if the individual said, I heard an explosion one time, and then another time when they interviewed them again and said, I saw the planes crash. And they try to think, so that's the controlled demolition theory. But there's basically...
I think there is some credence to that, though.
There is, yeah.
Because there were so many people, and they were experts in this kind of thing, that felt that initial blast from underneath.
Right, and then then there's the meme of the jet fuel and the steel beams.
Right. But that underneath blast, that one always gets me because I don't think the government did it. I don't think that they actually put bombs in the building, but maybe they had, like, the terrorists or whatever had help and put bombs in the building prior. I don't know what the conclusion of that is, and that's kind of the unique part of 9/11 conspiracies is a lot of the things that don't add up. We don't know what conclusion that leads to, and that just kind of adds to the confusion of it.
Right, and it's so yeah. A lot of these questions that are bringing up from a lot of the conspiracy theories bring up good points, although a lot of them haven't really resulted in much concrete evidence to say otherwise. Like there hasn't been any clear theory to just say, oh, for sure this goes against the official accounts, therefore it's like proven without a shadow of a doubt. The official account is still considered the official account, although not many people have accepted it as such, at least not as many as people might think. A lot of these theories originated from the fact that, you know, people were questioning whether or not the government actually knew about the attack leading up to 9/11. So yeah, I'm going to be getting into just a couple of the different theories and what specifically they were finding, especially from the 9/11 Commission, which conducted a lot of these investigations and actually dug deep into some of these conspiracy theories. There was talk of the suspected insider trading that happened leading up to 9/11. There were at least the account showed, conspiracy theorists were claiming that there was an extraordinary amount of put options that were placed on United Airlines and American Airlines stocks. And it created a possible situation where they were trying to make money off the fact that 9/11 was going to happen. The 9/11 Commission and the SEC investigated, but the conclusion that they released basically said, through the exhaustive investigations by the Security and Exchanges Commission, FBI, and other agencies have uncovered no evidence that anyone with advanced knowledge of the attacks profited through securities transactions. So they basically just said, oh, a lot of these trades that were showing up were coincidental.
Maybe.
But it was a good question to ask, which is what I tend to like a lot about the theories, is they bring up good questions, and it forced the 9/11 Commission to investigate some of the claims. Now there are some claims that are a little more outlandish that I think are pretty crazy. I know growing up, I heard about these crazy things like, I mean, you have your more crazy spiritual conspiracy theorists with the whole, you know, the smoke made a face like the devil.
Oh, yeah, those are complete bullshit and weird.
Or, yeah, and the whole religious argument of, like, this is a symbolic thing, an attack on America because America is a great country of God or whatever. The other one that was really interesting was what's called the air defense stand-down theory. So it just basically claims that NORAD, which is our airspace defense command, issued a stand-down order, or they possibly deliberately scrambled fighters a little too late and basically allowed these hijacked planes to reach their targets without interference. So that there was this is kind of leaning more towards the inside job type theories, because you have your theories that are more just saying, you know, someone prevented action from taking place to prevent this.
Well, I think there's some competing theories here too. You have the theory where they let it happen, and then you have the theory that they shot it down.
Yeah, there's the theories that there's three kinds of theories in this article that I'm reading, which is on Wikipedia. You type in 9/11 conspiracy theories on Wikipedia, and it gives you a whole list of the different kinds of theories, and it categorizes the kinds of theories you have. You have basically the theories that are that are saying the government or individuals in the government were basically preventing action from taking place, from preventing this to happen. Mm-hmm. And then there's other theories that are leaning towards saying the government actually made this happen. So they have individuals in the government that contributed to this happening. So the inside job versus the inaction theories. And then the rest of the theories are just a whole bunch of ones that are combining the two, or it's a whole different theory unto itself that may have nothing to do with the government. It might have to do with secret organizations. But yeah, the one with NORAD standing down could not be proven because one of the first things the hijackers did was they would turn off the onboard transponders. And these transponders that were basically giving off a signal, those going off among 4,500 other signals in the air could not have been caught. In the past, the NORAD has not been able to respond to really any incident, let alone even have an incident to respond to right away. Mm-hmm. The article here basically touches on how the last major hijacked plane was in 1979, and we didn't respond to that for like an hour and 19 minutes.
Oh,
whereas the events of 9/11 took place a lot quicker than that. But that was, it's different times, and we weren't prepared for it. So to say that there was some sort of action taking place within NORAD to prevent fighters from responding is shoddy at best, to look at that.
Yeah, I don't think the federal government could pull off something so elaborate against itself.
Right. Well, it's just,
they're so incapable of doing the simplest things that this is just, it's a bit much.
And then there's another theory here that just kind of barely even made a splash, but people still hold on to this one. It's been claimed that Israeli agents may have had knowledge of the attacks and did nothing. So 4 hours after the attack, the FBI arrested 5 Israelis who had been filming the smoking skyline from the roof of a white van in the parking lot of an apartment building because of their puzzling behavior.
Well,
the Israelis were videotaping
about filming it.
The Israelis were videotaping the events, and one bystander said they acted in a suspicious manner. They were like, this is a quote from the bystander, they were like, happy, they didn't look shocked to me. I thought it was very strange. And after they had arrested these guys, the FBI investigated and concluded 2 of these guys were Israeli intelligence operatives, but with coordinating with the Israeli embassy in the States, they concluded that there was no involvement with any intelligence operation. They were just inactive intelligence operatives filming something.
I guess that could be plausible. If you're an intelligence agent, you've seen some shit, so you're probably not going to have the same reaction as everybody else.
Yeah, and you're probably
everyone's
just
on high
doing
alert
this
after that. They're going to be looking at everyone's behavior and be like, "Oh, that's suspicious," even if it's not.
Right.
And the happiness, they were probably getting some really good footage.
I'm not quick to blame the Jews for everything. So,
if they were intelligence operatives, I think their instinct is to use their resources to gather intel. Hey, there's an attack in New York. How many people actually know? I mean, we're not.
Right.
That wasn't the time of social media and the internet that we are today.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you had a camera, like that was a luxury to just record something. Whereas nowadays, everyone would have their phone out if something like that happened today.
Exactly.
The official account of 9/11 probably would have been a lot more thorough than it was back in 2001 if it had happened today.
I think the most glaring thing that's missing from a lot of these conspiracy theories is the element of psychology. They don't put into account how people feel, how people react to situations. They take things very face value and throw it to the masses as proof of some kind of conspiracy or cover-up or whatever.
Right. And so it's interesting. So you brought up the whole Jews thing. There were a lot of theories, of course, that were not just theories. They were not founded in any... Exactly. There was a high amount of anti-Semitism coming out of a lot of these.
Oh, of course. There always is.
No, really? Are you sure?
Pretty sure. But yeah, and then the other theories are like, whether there was a controlled demolition. There was theories about, so outside of the World Trade Center attacks, there was of course the Pentagon. People thought that there was missiles that were launched at the Pentagon instead of actual planes. And then also there was Flight 93 that crashed. There's theories surrounding, because of how the wreckage was spread, and it was spread farther than a typical crash, there's theories circulating that fighter jets may have tried to shoot it down.
I do believe that one.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was heading towards the White House. They're going to take every precaution necessary. And then the overblown hero theory that they came public with, that the passengers took over the plane and ended up crashing it so they wouldn't kill it. That's kind of far-fetched.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, is I actually talked to someone about this theory, and they said it could have been that as a result of the passengers trying to take back the plane, some of the engines might have overloaded and exploded, which made it look like it was shot down.
That's also plausible.
So that the wreckage Right, which made the wreckage spread out farther. And then, so then there's talk about what foreign governments could have been involved if the hijackers were not completely motivated by religious zealotry, the whole Al-Qaeda thing and radical, this is pretty much the flashpoint of our war on terror. I mean, at least escalating it further. Was Israel a part of it? Saudi Arabia? Was it, what countries were actually involved? And then the crazy theory of there were actually no planes.
That one always pisses me off.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2001. They're not going to have some holograph planes flying into buildings and time it just perfectly to exploding buildings. No.
Right.
And the sheer effort it would take to pull that off, millions of people saw that happen. It's the most populated city in the country. And how many people would have to be crisis actors or stick with the same kind of story of what they saw and get it right so nobody would question it? That's just insane to me. You have to be so far down the rabbit hole of insanity to even entertain this idea.
Right. So now you have, and then the article gets into motives. What are the different motives? The big ones that I think are interesting is, of course, the prelude to invasion. By having this attack take place, it gave the U.S. more of a reason to invade, at least portray the idea that we have more reason to invade, and then better serve our interests to secure oil in the Middle East. There's a little crazier stuff, like Alex Jones and some others were talking about, like, this was a big event that was supposed to initiate the beginnings of, like, the New World Order.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, you had people like Alex Jones, Jesse Ventura. There were some former members of the U.S. House, actors like Charlie Sheen, some physicists, some software engineers and such, all came forward to kind of become part of this 9/11 truther movement. Now, you're not hearing many people talk about it too much, but it's becoming more of like, for how many people and how many theories are circulating, you would almost think it's like a pastime of Americans to look into 9/11.
Well, it gives a sense of community.
Theories.
People come together over these things.
What was really interesting about this theory, not just because it was so recent, but the fact that so many people are a part of it. So there's another article here that talks about the opinion polls that were taken from across the world and even across the country. And when they questioned just basic questions around, who do you think was behind 9/11, or why, what are the motivations? It's pretty split even in a lot of ways, or at least it's split in a way where it's not like some minority that believes or at least questions the official account of 9/11. The big one is a question that was asking, who do you think was behind the 9/11 attacks? And this was a survey taken across a lot of the major countries in the world, across all the continents. And they asked, across the board, it was only 46% of the people believe the 9/11 attacks were done by Al-Qaeda. 25% don't know. 7% thought other, and another 7% thought Israel. And then 15% believed it was the U.S. government.
Wow.
So not quite your, 90 some odd percent saying, I believe in the official account, it's Al-Qaeda, versus the small minority of other groups. Or even just the fact that 25% say they don't know is pretty interesting too. It shows the public is very, across the world is very distrusting of official account of such an event from the U.S. government.
I think it was a wake-up call to a lot of people around the world that there were so many inconsistencies, and it seemed all too perfect that they wanted to go to war with the Middle East, and this was just the perfect event to set that in place. So people started questioning things more, and it's a good thing, and I wouldn't necessarily say a bad thing, but something to be wary of. Now people question everything, and they look for conspiracies in everything, even when it's not really necessary. But it's created this culture of conspiracy, and I think 9/11 was the start of that for a lot of people.
Imagine if Donald Trump were around and he just called it fake news.
He kind of did, actually.
I don't remember much of like who all spoke out during that time.
He spoke out right afterwards and said that it looked like a controlled demolition and that he wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Back when he wasn't as controversial of a figure.
Yeah. He also said that on the New Jersey side, Middle Easterners were on the rooftops laughing and jumping for joy, and he saw that from New York, which is bullshit. You cannot see that from New York. I lived in Jersey. But that actually turned out to be false, that never happened. He had a lot of things to say about 9/11.
And the fact that I think because of so many proponents of these 9/11 truthers had a pretty interesting track record is why a lot of these theories aren't taken too seriously, which is why I'm not, saying, whether it's an inside job or whatever, but that I think it's totally possible that there was something going on, and I'm leaving it at that, that if some evidence came up in the future where we actually concluded on saying, like, okay, the official account is not entirely true, and maybe there was some insider involvement, whether it was not entirely Al-Qaeda, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Right. What do you think of the 9/11?
Most of them are pretty out there. I guess my personal opinion on what happened, I mean, I'd like to think that it was more of they didn't do enough to stop it versus deliberately planned and all this kind of thing. It was more of a, hey, if they pull something off, we can have an excuse to go to war, and, well, how much money war makes for various different people. I don't know if they knew that it was going to be the World Trade Center and that thousands of people were going to die. I don't know, but that's really more like what I think. But yeah, I do think a lot of the people coming up with some of the theories are just absolutely crazy, and people will be more inclined to believe and listen to some of the more credible or plausible kinds of theories if there weren't people saying that they saw Satan in the smoke, or that there were hologram technologies that were displaying like a Scooby-Doo monster.
It was Old Man Flanders all along.
Right. This like an episode of Scooby-Doo where it was a projector that was showing the ghost. And I mean, come on, because if you're like, I don't know if I trust the official account or whatever, you're immediately lumped in with hologram guy and Satan and the smoke guy.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part of 9/11 conspiracies, because it's such a huge movement that they've kind of discredited themselves just because of all the craziness that comes with the cult of conspiracies.
What's really interesting about a lot of the theories is the fact that it's not just one specific group. Like, you see someone like Alex Jones and you're probably thinking right wing. When you look at the conspiracy theorists and you look at their political beliefs, you can have conspiracy theorists about 9/11 that span the entire political spectrum. You're having your right wingers are probably really going after like the globalist agenda. Your left wingers might think that there's some sort of a other type of agenda that is more suiting to their narrative. You might have more, there were libertarians that were really on board with the conspiracy theories. Yeah, way. Questioning government involvement or government inaction. And then you might have the more authoritarian types that are probably thinking there's some sort of a, corporations getting all corporation-y and such. So it's not just for the specific types. Pretty much anyone of any political belief, given it enough, some cases paranoia, or even just a healthy sense of skepticism, can buy into a lot of crazy theories.
That's kind of where I'm at with it too. Just believing that the official account is not completely true. I think there was a lot of failures that day from all the different levels of government, all the different levels of emergency response. It was kind of a catastrophic failure on all accounts, and I think there was a lot of cover-up after the fact. So they were trying to cover up their own failures, and that's what's probably missing from the official 9/11 report. A lot of people covering their ass. I do think that United 93 was shot down, and I don't think it was done like maliciously. I think it was done because threat assessment, they thought it was going to hit the White House or Congress, and those people were going to die anyways, so save some lives over a lot more lives. I think that one
like a trolley problem.
Yeah, essentially. I think that was what they were faced with, and I think that's one of the only major conspiracy theories behind 9/11 that I'll completely buy into. The others, I don't know. I mean, there was stuff with their passports, like they found the hijackers' passports completely unscathed in the wreckage from the towers. That's total bullshit. Like, you can't get me to. But maybe they had other evidence, and they had to fabricate something to make people believe, so they didn't lose the trust of the nation at the beginning of wartime. I don't know. I know there's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot that we're never going to know. But it would be interesting to see the redacted portions of the 9/11 report. It's hard to follow 9/11 conspiracies, but I saved a really unique one for the end. The Denver International Airport. The Denver International Airport has been a hub, no pun intended, for conspiracies since it was built in 1995. And it all seems to stem from its construction. The original budget for the project was $2 billion, but it went over budget by an additional $2.4 billion. So what could possibly cost so much to cause the project to more than double its budget? Nobody really knows. Some attribute it to regular wasteful spending and foreseeable budget overtures, like most construction projects. When it comes to airports, it's really not that far over budget. The Shanghai airport, for instance, cost $20 billion. There was several U.S. airports that cost over $10 billion. So $2 to $4 billion it's really not that huge of a jump. But nobody really knows where that money went. Others say the extra $2.4 billion was used to build the extensive underground structures beneath the airport itself. It said that there's 5 stories worth of buildings underground with a vast network of tunnels spanning the entire airport. One of the most prominent conspiracy theories surrounding the airport is that it's a New World Order headquarters, commissioned by the Freemasons, of course, and that they operate in the buildings and tunnels underneath. This may sound crazy, except for the several clues left by the Freemasons, including the dedication stone located in the airport. The symbols on the marker are associated with the Freemasons, and the marker also mentions the New World Airport Commission, an organization that doesn't actually exist. The explanation given is that it's a conglomerate of local businesses, politicians, construction workers, and builders responsible for the construction and the funding of the new airport. Or it's a very obvious clue left by the ever-mysterious NWO and Freemasons, organizations that are so good at hiding in plain sight that they leave nefarious signs and symbols around their secret headquarters, because that makes complete and total sense.
So, the Freemasons are underground?
Yes.
Underneath the Denver airport?
Yeah.
Like dwarfs, right?
Yes, apparently.
So they're like the Dwemer from Elder Scrolls? They're just,
perhaps,
just underneath?
They're the underground people who run the world secretly from underneath.
The mole people.
Denver International.
Yeah, a major airport.
Right.
Other theories include that it's a Nazi headquarters for the U.S. Not your homegrown neo-Nazi scumbags, but remnants of the old world Nazi party leadership.
I thought that was in Argentina.
No. It's on the dark side of the moon. Come on.
No, that's where the Jewish New World Order headquarters are. They have the moon base. I think you're getting your conspiracy theories mixed. It's hard to keep track. Evidence of the Nazi headquarters lies in the layout of the runways. I'll include a photo of this in the show notes so our listeners can see, but the top-down aerial view of Denver International is actually in the shape of a swastika.
I'm looking this up right now. Hold on, give me a second, and yeah, that's a swastika.
Yes. It's a massive oversight on the architect and planning committee's part to leave such an obvious clue to the real purpose of the airport.
That's
like, you can just imagine, like, the planning committee, like, well, we made sure to take out all of the heraldic eagles from the building plans. Like, there's no more swastikas around. Like, we're good. Surely nobody will notice that what we're doing here. And then somebody, like, looks at the runway plans and like, damn it, Carl, you forgot the swastika runways.
Plausible deniability, don't you know?
I mean, yeah. I just can't get over how much this looks like a swastika.
It really does. It really does look like a swastika. It's insane. You put a swastika on top of it, and it's what it is. It's the Nazi.
They need to get some extra lighting, outside on the runways just to make it look proper one time.
Yeah, repaint the runways black.
Right.
Now, as far as the tunnels go, for an explanation on that, they do have a massive underground tram system to go in between terminals, to get to baggage claim, to get to all the different parts of the airport, because it is a huge airport. It was built with the airlines in mind. A lot of the airlines wanted to make Denver like their central hub. So with that in mind, they made the airport gigantic. So they have tons of tunnels. They have, underground structures. Another part of the tunnels, why they made so many of them, is because they had an automatic baggage carousel, I guess, for lack of a better word. They had like a whole baggage tram thing that was it's supposed to be completely automated. It was state-of-the-art, revolutionary. Nobody else had something like it, but it failed. And they also attribute that to the budget overages. Took a couple $1 billion for them to do it, and it never worked. But that also leads to more conspiracy theories because it never worked and because they spent so much money on it. They think that the automatic baggage carousel in the tunnels was a front for a FEMA concentration camp. I shit you not.
Did Halliburton build the FEMA concentration camp? Because that's another one that Halliburton has in Arkansas, like a FEMA camp, and they made plastic coffins or something.
Oh yeah, the plastic coffin liners. That was a good one. Jesse Ventura got on that shit. But it turns out it was just regular grave liners that a manufacturer had stored in a field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, I didn't see any Halliburton mentioned. Yeah, it's just it's a FEMA concentration camp that's set up and ready to go whenever FEMA decides to put people in concentration camps. Other theories include that it is a bunker, like a doomsday bunker for the 5 million chosen. Who chooses these people? I don't know, but that's another theory.
As long as I'm on the list.
Right. Some other theories and some other things that spur these theories on is the weird artwork that's around the airport. Driving into the airport, you have a gigantic blue horse statue with red glowing eyes, and it's called Blucifer. So naturally, Satan put it there for some reason because it's a satanic airport and, the NWO runs it or something. I don't really know how all of this factors into it, but every single conspiracy theory surrounding this airport mentions this goddamn horse. Like it's some kind of clue.
I mean, the Denver Broncos.
Well, it's a stallion.
Right? Well, I mean, it's a horse. A Bronco is a horse. It's
sure.
That's probably all that is.
Yeah, and they call it Blucifer because the sculptor who made it, it fell on him while he was making it, and it killed him. So it's just kind of like a clever nickname for the horse that killed its maker. It is weird, though. Like, it is a weird statue to have at airport entrance. Like a glowing red eyes, blue horse. Like, what the hell? Also, they have 4 massive murals throughout the airport. They take up huge amounts of wall space in baggage claim. They're named, they have really nice names. Children of the World Dream of Peace and In Peace and Harmony with Nature. But their content is terrifying. They have death-masked soldiers stalking children with guns. Animals are dead and kept under glass. The entire world looks to have been destroyed. And they have a skeleton Nazi with a gun and people behind him with gas masks and a letter from a Holocaust survivor from Auschwitz in one of the murals. It's very strange. Like, even people who work at the airport, they're like, yeah, man, I don't really have an explanation for that. That's weird.
A skeleton Nazi has to be some
a skeleton Nazi with a gun.
Has to be some like Nazi Zombies Call of Duty reference from 1995, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. It's weird, though. They had these murals commissioned, and they were approved by local politicians. I think it was city council or some kind of local committee of politicians who had to approve it. So that's where a lot of the conspiracy comes in. It said, yes, it was commissioned by an independent artist, but NWO has plants in local government. Clearly.
I just kind of wondering, like how many different artists submitted their work?
Oh, probably crap.
Right, and that's what they picked.
It was supposed to be very profound messages about overcoming hatred.
They're profound.
And
they're
unity.
Definitely very profound.
And leaving our destructive past behind us. So that was the That was the message behind it, but it just comes across very strange. So that lends a lot of credence to the conspiracy theories. That seems to be the one thing that's mentioned in almost all of them is the murals and the dedication stone for the NWO. There's tons of it. I know there's some weird, you know how all these conspiracy theorists have this weird math thing they do where they add up all the letters of things and then whatever that equals, it's usually symbolic of something else. They have that on the dedication stone as well. The date it was dedicated adds up to 33, which just happens to be the highest level you can go in the Freemasons. So clearly that's proof that the Freemasons are underneath the airport plotting everyone's demise. I don't know why, but it makes sense to
like
conspiracy
dwarves.
theorists. Yes. Other lesser known theories is that it's a portal to hell because there's a gargoyle statue in the airport.
What?
Yeah. Some people they kind of go nuts.
I mean, how bad of an experience did you have at this air? They must have flew Spirit. They must have flew Spirit Airlines and was like, this gotta be a
Spirit,
portal
and they
to
lost
hell.
their bags and their flight was canceled.
Yeah,
and they were stuck in the airport for a day.
That must have been where that one came from.
The delirium they were going through while seeing these gargoyles, and we're like, it's got to be a portal to hell. I'm feeling like such crap in this airport.
I mean, I feel it. Like every time I fly, I have something go wrong. I haven't had one trip without a flight delay, a flight cancellation, getting stuck in another city, them losing my bags being delayed, an issue with boarding passes, something has always gone wrong every time I've flown.
Wow.
That's because you fly Spirit.
I've only flown Spirit twice.
That's 2 times too many.
How do you have that many problems flying?
I don't know. I am the living embodiment of Murphy's Law.
I mean,
Whatever
that's
got to
be a conspiracy. That's got to be a conspiracy theory.
I think that is a conspiracy. But maybe the people who come up with this are kind of like me and just have really shitty experiences and just pissed the world. And you're like, you know what? This airport is clearly demonic. This is a portal to hell. I am done flying. Who knows? Maybe I'll be that person one day. Another thing with the artwork around, there are weird markings on the floors all around the airport. They're actually Navajo language. You know, it's Colorado. There's old Indian grounds all over the place. They have, these markings that are in Navajo language. Some of them are pulled from the periodic table of elements for some reason. But some people believe that these strange markings on its floors are a new strain of hepatitis that can be used in biological warfare, and that this is the NWO and the Freemasons' way of warning everybody about their super secret plans to release biological warfare hepatitis on the population.
Not much of a secret.
That's what super secret villains do.
That's what I was thinking of. Like, that is the worst planning ever.
Yes.
If Dickbone69 on the internet can figure it out, then how much of a secret can it be? This is kind of like in a movie.
The lack of credibility in the people who can figure it out.
Yeah, this is kind of like in a movie, where there's that bit of where the villain's like, all right, so now that I got you here, I'm gonna tell you my plan. This is like that, except at an airport in Colorado.
For no apparent reason.
Right.
Yeah. Where
the dwarves that work for the Freemasons, I don't know. This is all very confusing.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to save this one for last, because it's so unique and it's so off the wall, and I had never heard of it before. I only found out, actually, as I was flying to the Denver airport on a connecting flight. I heard it mentioned, and I started watching YouTube videos on it and looking into it a little bit. And I'm like, holy shit. So, but yeah, it's definitely unique, and I thought it would be interesting.
It definitely is interesting. I tell you that much. I mean, it's interesting.
One of the more off the wall ones that isn't as mainstream as the rest. Anyways, before we go, we just want to remind our listeners to check out Think Liberty on all social media platforms. Just search Think Liberty on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and any other platforms you use. And as always, our website is think-liberty.com. You can find our shop there with tons of original designs. And before you're done listening, subscribe to the Think Liberty podcast network for almost daily uploads of new shows. Leave us a review and tell a friend. I appreciate everyone's time this week, and whether you like it or not, we'll probably be back.